severe heat wave has gripped Europe since the past week, triggering widespread heat alerts in many countries across the continent.
Russia launched a record 5,438 drones at Ukraine in the month of June alone, according to Ukraine's Air Force.
A severe heat wave has gripped Europe since the past week, triggering widespread heat alerts in many countries across the continent. Portugal, Spain, France and Italy were some of the worst hit countries, with temperatures reaching over 40 degrees Celsius. In Portugal, a red heat warning was issued for 7 out of 18 districts, with temperatures forecast hitting up to 43 degrees Celsius. The 7 districts recorded the highest maximum temperature ever in the country in June. Spain also reached record high temperatures, with Barcelona recording its hottest month of June in a century. The National Weather Service said temperatures are expected to remain high until Thursday. And French Prime Minister François Bayrou said 16 regions are under a red alert in France and 68 others under an orange alert as a severe heat wave gripped much of the country.
Les représentants de Météo France nous ont dit qu'ils pouvaient espérer que les départements en vigilance rouge retrouvent une situation météo plus favorable dans les jours qui viennent.
Meanwhile, in Italy, 2 people have died due to separate heat-related incidents. Rome, where temperatures have consistently stayed above 35 degrees Celsius for a week now, is one of the countries most affected by rising temperatures over the last 50 years.
People in the country of Dolj, southwestern Romania, are struggling to access water as the heat intensifies. With wells dried up, they walk through fields or forests to collect water from springs, carrying it back in jerry cans or barrels. When it rains, they save every drop for household use. Even in better off areas, poor infrastructure means water is only available in limited proportions.
Am pus bidoanele deja în remorcuță și ne pregătim să ne ducem să luăm apă.
In the village of Dascudindal, many must fetch water from a distant spring in a field where a town hall drilled source offers only a trickle.
E greu pe canicule, fără apă și bocal de aici până atâția distanță până acasă încălzești.
All 50 families in the village are going through the same difficulties, with some collecting rainwater as an additional source. Some explain they use it for the chickens or to water the vegetables. City officials say there is no solution for the local residents, but they plan to improve the road leading to the well.
Domnul primar săptămâna viitoare are utilajele pregătite pentru a împrăștia piatră și a face acolo tot terenul să fie ușor de ajuns la puțul nostru.
Other localities, even some in the Danube Valley, are also experiencing the same water supply problems.
Foarte rău. Când pornesc pompa, opresc hidroforul. Când pornesc hidroforul, opresc pompa. Exact Sahara. E sărăcie curată.
According to data from the National Meteorological Administration, 1/3 of Romania is facing drought.
Russia launched a record 5,438 drones against Ukraine in June, more than in any month since Moscow launched its invasion in February 2022, according to Ukraine's Air Force. The data from Ukraine's Air Force shows that Moscow has significantly intensified its aerial strikes at Ukraine since May, with the drone and missile attacks and bombardments becoming more frequent and more intense. Over the past year and a half, there were only 2 days when Russia did not attack Ukraine with missiles and drones, Ukrainian Foreign Minister Andriy Sybiha said on Monday. The total number of drones launched in Ukraine in June alone suggests Russia is now capable of launching as many drones in a single night as it did over an entire month in early summer 2024. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said in June that in total, Russia has launched around 28,000 Shahed-type drones against Ukraine since early 2022. Both sides in the nearly 3.5-year war have raced to improve drone technology and enhance their use on the battlefield.
The European Commission has announced an agreement in principle on a new trade deal with Ukraine. The new agreement replaces the existing temporary post-war framework with a long-term, more modest arrangement. Since 2022, trade between the EU and Ukraine was governed by the Autonomous Trade Measures, or the ATM. They eliminated all tariffs and quotas on Ukrainian agricultural exports to Brussels, offering crucial access to European markets during wartime. The new agreement, however, is less ambitious than the scheme it replaces, which expired earlier this month. The EU's Agriculture Commissioner Christoph Hansen says that it aims to strike the right balance between supporting Kyiv's trade with the bloc while addressing the sensitivities of a number of EU agriculture sectors and related concerns. The ATM has sparked outrage in a number of European countries, particularly France and Poland, as farmers protested the spike in Ukrainian imports. Some of the new key provisions of the deal include greater protection of EU markets, specifically for sensitive products like eggs, sugar, and wheat. Ukraine has also agreed to gradually align its production standards, including animal welfare and the use of pesticides, with those of the EU by 2028. Both sides are now set to work on finalizing technical aspects of the deal. The Commission will then present it to member states and the European Parliament in the coming days. Lithuania and the Philippines have signed an agreement on Monday to build a security alliance. The agreement comes as both countries mutually expressed alarm over growing aggression threatening their regions by countries like China. The Memorandum of Understanding was signed in the Philippines' capital, Manila, between Defense Ministers Davila Shakaliana and Gilberto Teodoro Jr. The pact aims to foster cooperation between the two nations, particularly in the fields of cybersecurity and defense industries. It also covers other areas including the production of munitions and maritime security. Lithuania's Shakaliana described Vilnius's concern over growing, quote, authoritarian axis of Russia, which includes China, North Korea, and Iran. For years, multiple Asian countries including the Philippines, Vietnam, Malaysia, and Brunei have been involved in prolonged territorial standoffs with China. Beijing has regularly used water cannons and dangerous maneuvers against Filipino vessels and fishermen, accusing them of encroaching in what it calls ancient Chinese territory. Shakaliana condemned the hostilities in the South China Sea, a key global trade route, calling it an attack on the democratic world. The agreement with Lithuania was part of Filipino President Ferdinand Marcos's effort to intensify security alliances between Asia and Western countries. Manila also has a treaty alliance with the United States to boost its maritime defenses.
4 Turkish journalists from Leman magazine have been detained by police over a caricature of the Prophet Muhammad greeting Moses in a war zone. In a video shared on X by Interior Minister Ali Yerlikaya, you can see the cartoonist being manhandled and taken away by police. Yerlikaya also said in his post that he condemned, quote, those who are trying to sow discord by drawing a caricature of our prophet. The magazine is being investigated for possible charges of publicly insulting religious values, according to the country's justice minister. A reportedly Islamist group hurled stones in protest at the Leman magazine's building in Istanbul. US President Donald Trump signed an executive order ending many US economic sanctions on Syria on Monday. This follows a promise Trump made to interim Syrian President Ahmed al-Shara in May. White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said the move was to encourage the country towards peace.
And this is in an effort to promote and support the country's path to stability and peace. The order will remove sanctions on Syria while maintaining sanctions on the former President Assad, his associates, human rights abusers, drug traffickers, persons linked to chemical weapons activities, ISIS and their affiliates, and Iranian proxies.
Another US government official said the move is aimed at ending Syria's financial isolation and attracting investment from the region as well as the US.
The 18th package of sanctions against Russia is still at a standstill. European leaders failed on Friday to unanimously adopt new sanctions against Moscow following a veto by Slovakia. Prime Minister Robert Fico's opposition has nothing to do with the sanctions themselves. Instead, Bratislava is hoping to obtain concessions from Brussels on the Repower EU plan.
Musím zdôrazniť, že ide o mimoriadne vážny návrh Európskej komisie, ktorý bude mať mimoriadne negatívny dopad tak na ceny plynu na Slovensku, či už pre domácnosti alebo pre priemysel, ale bude viesť určite aj k zníženiu konkurencieschopnosti celej Európskej únie.
Fico asks for compensation for households and industry. The Slovakian Prime Minister believes that Gazprom could take Slovakia to court if it terminated the supply contract. This fear is brushed aside by an expert on sanctions against Russia.
It depends a little bit on the specific provisions of this import contract, but generally speaking, once there is a sanction, a ban on certain imports, then the contractual parties can declare force majeure and decline to pay for the volumes that were originally contracted.
Slovakia and Hungary are the two EU countries that continue to import Russian oil and gas via pipeline. However, 10 European countries, including Belgium, France, and Spain, still buy liquefied natural gas from Russia. Negotiations on the 18th sanctions package are still underway. A meeting between the European Commission and Slovakia is scheduled for this week to find the way out of the stalemate.